Hello, 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 and welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me. And as you may notice, there is a new face here. I have Annette
Hello.
Stewart, who is joining me this evening. Annette is the Vice President of Financial Services, Business Strategy, and Development at Samsung Electronics Americas. And we're going to be talking. We have a really good topic, y'all, today.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Value, visibility, and voice. And this is something that I'm excited about because I feel like it goes across the levels, regardless of where someone is in a hierarchical structure. These are topics that each person can provide insight on. So if you're joining for the first time, typically I only go 15 minutes long, but with the special guest here, I don't want to rush this at all. I want Annette to be able to share all of the insights that she's gained over throughout her career, the observations that she's made. I know she's going to have some great things to share. And so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lepore Lindsay. I speak about workplace value every single week. And every Sunday. And workplace value really is about, regardless of what your title says, regardless of what your position says, how are you able to provide insight and provide impact? And Annette, I would love for you as well to introduce yourself and I know I've kind of said who you were
Sure.
title wise, but if there's a little bit more you want to share, please feel free to share a little bit more.
Okay, sure. No, definitely. So, hi, everyone. As you see, Annette Stewart. I am a person who spent about almost 20 years on Wall Street. Started my career after law school in Iowa, working at Citadel, and that started my whole career trajectory onwards. I moved from Chicago to New York via Goldman Sachs. And most recently, before Samsung, I was at Royal Bank of Canada. But I've worked from trade floor to just capital markets, risk and regulatory, a little bit of everything. And I've seen a little bit of everything in the sense of managing teams. And I love these topics here because it just gels with everything I've seen and even what I continue to see at Samsung.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. And as you all are tuning in, whether you are watching this live or you're catching the replay, let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask those questions as well. I know that I'll be happy to answer them, and Annette will be happy to provide some insight as well. So, y'all, we have three things that we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about value, visibility, and we're talking about voice. And I know that for myself, Annette, I've spent some years studying and just really observing things at every level. And I would really just like to look through both lenses, from both my observations and your observations in regards to what we think professionals or employees can control, and then also what leaders look for as well when it comes to these three topics. So, my first question is around the topic of value. When we're thinking about value, when someone who consistently adds value to the team, regardless of title, what are certain behaviors that really just kind of stand out to you as in, hey, that is someone who is adding value to the team?
Well, I think what's interesting when you say value, I always think about myself using value as KPIs. These are key performance indicators for folks on the call here. And how am I measuring my success? Is it sales? Is it production? Whatever your role is. So I think what is the value that I'm bringing in regards to those KPIs for my team? But then I also think about, is it somebody that's collaborative? Are you able to work with people? And there are all kinds of people we work with, right? From very
Right.
friendly, difficult, etc. So I kind of see it as, how am I measuring my success, that I understand that? And am I also collaborative and having communication and ensuring that what I see as measurement goals matches what my boss sees or the boss's boss sees, etc.
Yeah, no, that's really good. One of the things that stands out to me with what you just shared there was that communication piece. And I've had a lot of questions from people who, when it comes to speaking up or speaking out, they get really nervous and they're not quite sure how to. I know this kind of taps into the voice piece, but it also is about that value piece. They're not quite sure how to share in a way that isn't braggadocious, for lack of a better word, but also
Yeah.
it gets the attention of their leaders. So, have you seen anyone like that in the past where they have been able to kind of break through that mold?
And I've seen myself, and I'll tell you
Okay.
a quick story. When I was working at Citadel, there was opportunity. I was sitting in this room and I was quiet the entire time. And I remember my boss afterwards nicely told me, we pay you to contribute, part of the team. So, but you know what? It was the best advice I ever got.
Yeah,
Between us, Lindsay, I think I was nervous. I was more junior. I didn't think I had much to add. Whatever the self-talk is, it's never.
right.
And it's funny, Ethan Kross wrote a book called Chatter, where it's like turning that self-talk around. So long story short, I took that lesson as great feedback, and I made a point of ensuring I'm communicating. But when you're talking about bragging, listen, no one's going to do things for you. So sometimes you do need to speak out. You might have a great sponsor, you might have a great mentor that's guiding you, but listen, you can do it nicely to say, hey, I led this initiative to create X, and as a team, we work together to deliver it. So there are ways when, don't forget the I part, but then also don't forget to stress the we as well. I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah.
you have to say it because no one's going to say it for you unless you're so fortunate to have a great sponsor, which I've been fortunate to have that, but not everybody has it. And I hate to tell you, sometimes other people will take credit. So
Oh my gosh.
please
Yes.
just say something because, and especially I know in the audience for women, we don't speak up enough sometimes. I'm just going to tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So please, again, just speak up, but give credit to where credit's due as well, and ensure you're saying the team and the we were necessary.
Oh, that's good. I hope y'all were listening.
That's the truth. Well, especially
Yeah.
in financial services, not to speak on other industries here,
Yeah.
but I do think we get lost. So, again, just to speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, when you shared that story in regards to your supervisor at the time saying, we pay you to contribute, like you can't just sit there and be quiet. It reminds me of, gosh, it was probably about 8 years ago. I had a supervisor and I was actually getting ready to leave that company. And one of the things she shared with me, she said, look, you're absolutely an amazing employee, but it took too long for us to know what you could contribute. It took too long for us to know what you can do. And to your point, not only are we needing to be in a position where we speak up, where we share that value, but we're also needing to get into a place where we don't have to wait on the seniority or the time in. Like if there is a place where we see that we can contribute, maybe that's the time to just go ahead and put forth that effort.
One quick add, Lindsay, on this is people have to be ready to accept feedback. Could I have taken that comment as, oh
Mm,
my gosh, how dare you? I'm not contributing. Of course, I could have taken it negatively, but I took it positively. And I
right.
thought, how can I add value? So I would just say to folks, first ask for feedback if you're not getting any. And to your story as well, it came late when they figured this out. For
Yeah.
me, I was fortunate. I had this guardian angel, so to speak, who's looking and saying, I need you to do this. And
Yeah.
therefore I was able to do it. So it's just, are you able to either ask for the feedback if you're not getting it, number one, and number two, don't be offended by it.
Mm,
Take it in,
yeah.
stop, listen, take it in. What am I doing? And make sure you're understanding this because sometimes we have blind spots on our own actions.
Yeah, absolutely. A majority of the time, I feel like there are blind spots because we can only see what our experience and our understanding allows us to see. And unless someone else from an outside perspective comes in and says, this is how this is being interpreted, then we may be limited to that. But speaking of what we see, that kind of brings me to that next
Yes.
topic of visibility. So y'all, as we're talking about these topics, if something comes up and you have questions about anything that Annette or myself are saying, feel free to type those in the chat. Would absolutely love to hear from you. So when we talk about visibility, this is about how we can be seen. And we mentioned before in that value aspect with we don't want to brag, but
Yeah.
we're contributing and we're contributing in a way that we've connected to what matters, that we've connected to the team. Are there any habits or actions that you wish that you took early to mid-career in your profession that you recommend others to consider aside from being able to speak up?
I think for me, I was fortunate, I'd say first to get good mentors.
Mm,
So
yeah.
get good mentors along the way, and then understanding what sponsorship means. because sponsorship, remember, they're not your mentors. These are the people above that are making the decisions behind closed doors. So I would say having that more awareness on the sponsorships and cultivating that. I was fortunate to cultivate it without even knowing I was cultivating it. So,
Wow.
but I would say that awareness is good for folks here. I think having organic collaboration creates that as well. This is really when you want to work with the team, you're reaching out, you're that person saying, hey, do you have everything? Is there anything I can help you with? Where are we at? I know we have to deliver by Friday, and you're checking in on Monday or Tuesday, not on Thursday afternoon or evening. So things along those lines where you're just ensuring that organic collaboration's happening, and it'll really show through. But I think for me, what I would say, going back into that, it's like mentoring, getting feedback more. That always is helpful. And I talk to a lot of students nowadays just to prepare them for the workplace. I feel like I learned a lot just from hit and miss. And so
Yeah.
to me, I think it'd be just more getting more mentors around me would have been helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree to that. And one of the things that I would add to that mentorship piece is I had a mentor. He's still my mentor, and I was basically failing at the task at hand, and I felt so terrible. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to. I don't know if I really want to like check in with them and let them know what was going on. But that was one of the things he said. He was like, this is not a mentorship relationship. Is not just about you talking to me whenever all is going well. It's also about you talking to me when things aren't going well, because as a mentor, I am able to learn from you, you know, the questions that you have, the challenges that you have, just as well as the mentee or the protege is able to learn from the mentor. So it's a two-way street. And when you
Yes.
avoid talking to the mentor because you're not at your ideal self, you essentially prevent yourself and the mentor from having a valuable lesson learned. Is that something that you've also experienced as well?
Well, I've got to tell you, for some mentor needs the good, the bad, and the ugly. They need
Mm,
to know everything. That's the mentor. Remember, the sponsor is only going to hear the good things about you.
good.
The
Okay.
deliverables, the positives, because remember, they're way up above having those
Yeah.
closed door meetings. But the mentor, I agree, they need to know everything. But hopefully, you're getting that trusted confidant that you can really talk to that's going to give you that feedback to your point. But I would say I've learned that in the sense of dividing up the mentor and the sponsor
That's
and just
good.
remembering good, bad, ugly, tell them all, anything you want, obviously. And then, within reason, don't get me wrong. Don't get, hopefully you're still being in a positive, mode when you're talking to the mentor. But for the sponsor, it's usually, I want to show you what I delivered. I want to show you what as a team we did. I want to show you XYZ,
Yeah.
positive things. And so that's what I would say, because I really feel so many good opportunities have come because people behind those closed doors saw something in my deliverables and my work and promoted me. And
Oh,
so
that's
that's where
good.
I just, for anyone listening, just be aware, make sure you're letting people know what you're doing, what you're delivering, showing them all those positives, and hopefully that'll lead to that tap on the shoulder. By the way, it might be something like, what, cybersecurity? Are you serious? But do it. Someone
Yeah.
taps you on the shoulder, take that risk.
No,
That's what I
that's
would say.
good. And two, I do want to focus a little bit on that sponsorship piece, because as I
Mhm.
think about it, I don't think that that's something that we have a lot of conversations about outside of like Lean Six Sigma. Like when it comes to like a
Yes.
sponsor or a champion, like we don't talk about that. So when we talk about sponsorship, one of the things you've already mentioned is they're the ones that need to know all the good things that are happening versus a mentor, which knows the good, the bad, and the ugly. But does the sponsor, like, what are some of the recommendations that you recommend? Is it somebody that should be within your direct line, someone that's in your career trajectory in a completely different department? Or what is some of the criteria that we're looking for when we're looking for a sponsor to create that visibility?
Sure, no, definitely. And I believe it was Sylvia Ann Hewitt wrote this story about sponsorship probably almost 20 years ago, started talking about this concept, right? And the sponsor is going to be like your C-suite, the folks that are very much so senior behind those closed doors, making those bonus decisions, promotion decisions. What does that mean? Most likely, you might need to do some skip level meetings. Skip level meaning you're meeting the manager and the manager above as intros,
Right.
talking to them, letting them know who you are. And remember, you're doing these talking to your manager about it because it's more of how do I say, it's kind of a hand holding meeting of, well, yeah, let me guide you
Yeah.
to my manager for an intro. So it should be in your direct line or in the vicinity within your enterprise seniority, more the C-suite, as I mentioned. But I would also say that's where you're coming in with that one page, or just want to introduce myself and tell you I'm running X team. This is what we're doing. Boom, boom, boom. The other thing, just a quick note, is if you're involved in any of your ERGs, employee resource groups, any of those philanthropic groups, that's another easy way just to get your name out there, because
Right.
people see you. They see you introducing a speaker, doing something, hosting whatever it is, philanthropy within your company. That is also getting up to the sponsors, because most likely they're there and you're
Right.
probably introducing them, or a fireside chat or whatever it may be. So I'd say it's a little bit on both those things, for the ERG perspective, employee resource group, to the skip level meetings, coming prepared with that one pager introduction and what you work on.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So one more question,
Sure,
in
sure.
regards to something that you mentioned with the sponsorship. So one of the things that you mentioned was getting into those meetings, the skip level meeting. So let's say someone has been working at an organization for 5, 7 years, and they're just now deciding, you know what, I have been in these positions where I haven't yet been able to share, or to share the visibility, the value that my visibility has. Or I'm getting all my words confused, but yeah. So what do they are they also able to schedule these meetings with the skip level, or is there a different approach that they should consider if they're not new? And so it's not really an introduction, but it's more so of, these are my goals for 2026, and I'm trying to get more visibility to the value that I bring.
So the goal would be hopefully having a good relationship with your manager, your direct manager, and talking to them and saying, listen, I would love to increase my visibility here. I think this company X is excellent. It's great. I want to learn more, meet more people. May I please speak to X, probably their manager or the
Right.
manager over. Any issues with me setting time with them? And usually when I did that, I did these conversations because, Lindsay, I hate to tell you, you want to go through your manager, because then it sounds like you're going above your manager and
Right.
who knows what you're trying to do, versus you just coming out and say, listen, I just want to get to know my lineage of management. I think it'd be great for me just to meet people, tell them what I'm doing. So I would encourage those types of conversations. I think that's helpful. And I've had many times the manager even creating the email saying, hey, let's add, I'd love for you to meet Annette on the team, and hopefully you two can set some time up. And that's how it's happened, something along
Yeah.
those lines. So direct manager to start. If you're on ERGs, and again, the employee resource groups, and you're meeting people, then even better, you're probably talking to them. Hey, I'd love to talk to you just,
Yeah.
on my career and, what I'm doing. And you can maybe do it from that end, and it's not a threat, so to speak. It's more of just a conversation.
No, that's good. That's good. That's so good, Annette. Thank you so much. So, y'all, if you're just now tuning in, we are talking value, visibility, and voice. And Annette has already dropped some amazing nuggets with value and visibility. And so now we're going to shift over to the voice piece. So, I have one question for you with the voice, one initial question. And that is, when we're talking about voice in this sense, we're talking about, not just speaking up, but building credibility. And so, from your observations and from your experience, what makes someone's voice credible, even if they don't have as much experience as someone else on the company or in the team?
Well, I would say, aside from, you probably hear it all the time, be authentic, right?
Yeah.
Ask questions. If you're new to a team, I think about, usually when I start a new role, I'm learning, I'm asking questions, I'm asking for documents I can read and learn more about. So I think it's more along the lines to me of, how can I add value quicker to you?
Hmm.
So my voice is used more in getting to know people. And I understand sometimes we're like stuck on 30-minute meetings. We don't have a lot of time. I know
Yeah.
in my area, there's not a lot of chit chat, but there are some times where you can just say, how are you doing today? How was your weekend? And that might open some doors. You might learn about folks. And then later you can ask them, oh, how was your son's game, or whatever it was. A lot of folks from my work know I ran the St. Jude half marathon this past weekend, because I
Oh,
was
nice.
talking about that. So things along those lines. But what I would say is that authentic voice of, how are you? And listen, if I'm new to a job, I want to make sure I'm asking, where can I learn more about X? Where can I learn more about why? And you know what? I have to read it. I have to learn it. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to write down the answer. So I'm not asking that question again a few days later. So I think to me, it's showing not only are you trying to engage, you're trying to learn. And I think that's what people really value as well. But the authentic voice just comes with time, Lindsay, getting to know people and seeing your work. Am I going to see you deliver? Am I seeing you
Right.
do this when you tell me you were going to do it? If there's a deadline on Friday, are you giving me this, on Friday? Or are you telling me on Friday, I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to do it. This
Yeah.
happened, that happened. So again, I think it's really building that trust and credibility through your deliverables. That's important.
Yeah, no, that's really good, and I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned a couple things, and one is making a connection to what matters, and but that's one of the things that I'm always sharing in those workshops and those keynotes is that when we're talking about workplace value, it's not just about what I do and the work that I do. Like this is what makes me great. That's yes, that's your effort is part of it, but how are you connecting that to what matters? How are you connecting to the people? And the only way you can do that is to have those conversations, is to get to know the challenges, the needs, and the desires of those folks that you're working with. And then the time piece. We expect everything to be immediate.
I know.
And as you shared, it takes time and it takes consistency. If throughout consistently we are communicating and developing these relationships, that's what is going to help to build that credibility. So I really appreciate you sharing that insight.
No, and you talked about time, just a quick note. If you think you're overburdened, maybe you've been given too many things, speak up or
Yeah.
prioritize. Talk to your manager. You've given me 6 things to do by Friday,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this is quite a bit. What do you need done for sure by Friday? Have that conversation. If it is all 6, okay, let's figure it out. Is there someone that can help me? Or is it really in that? I only need this one. That's okay. So that's where again that trust, that conversation, and really saying, hey, can you help me with this? What's really important? And then we take it and prioritize.
Yeah.
But there's so much, and it's a crazy world to your point. But usually I just want authenticity. And I'd like you, Lindsay, to tell me, hey, listen, Annette, you've given me a lot here. I can't do this in a week. Help me out and what's important. And I'll
Yeah.
do it for you.
No, that's good. That's absolutely that's fantastic. So, all right, y'all have been super quiet today, but if you have questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat. Even if we don't get to them later, maybe it's something that we can respond to at another time. But Annette, I have one final question, and this
Sure.
kind of is the summary of the value, visibility, and voice that we spoke about here on today. What do you believe professionals misunderstand most about how leaders evaluate them?
That's such a good question. And I would say, being a leader on many teams, a lot of the time it's we don't understand what you want, don't understand your goal. You might be sitting around thinking, I want to get promoted, I want to get promoted. Your head's down, you're working hard, but you're not having that conversation with me, with your manager saying, you know what? I really want to work to get promotion, in 2025 and 2026. So I think the biggest thing professionals misunderstand is that we can't read minds. People cannot read your mind. So if there's a goal you have, and think about this as we hit the end of the year, make sure you're vocalizing those goals, especially to your manager. And your manager can be honest and say, listen, in order to get to the next level, you got to do X, Y, Z. This is what you need to do. But then they have that awareness. Remember those closed door meetings when they're talking to their manager? Well, you know what? Lindsay wants to get promoted. She talked to me about it. I know she wants to. That's where your name can come up. So again, the misunderstanding is people can't read our minds. So you might have your head down doing great work. People might then think, oh, you're so happy just keeping things as is. But if you want more, make sure you speak up. That's what I would say.
Oh, that's good because that's a perfect summary of the value, the visibility, and the voice. If we want more, regardless of what that is, it's number one being able to understand that we can do it. We have the effort, we have that value, making that visibility known by how we communicate, and that also flows into the voice as well. All right, y'all. So we are getting ready to close out on today. If you are catching the replay and you have questions, you can still feel free to ask those questions. You can just type it there in the chat, and I will respond, and I'll share it with Annette. Any insights that you all have. So, Annette, as we are preparing to close out, how can people connect with you if they want to connect with you, or follow you, whatever
Sure.
the case may be?
Yeah, no, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with people. It's funny, I'm in New York a lot, but I live in Memphis, Tennessee, so I fly all around. But I'm very happy to connect with people on LinkedIn. I know I've got a lot of experience, happy to chat, and the goal is always to help one another. So please connect with me. Happy to do that.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, y'all, we are getting ready to close out on this evening. Thank you all so much for joining, or thank you for watching the replay. And please remember to stay adding value. Have a good one, y'all.
Thank you.